Welcome ladies and gentlemen, this will hopefully become a series in which I try and teach you how to play Blood Bowl 2 one race at a time. However, today we're just going to start with the basics. Right now you might be thinking, this game looks like football, but that is very incorrect. It is more like rugby, but more on that later. The game will start with a coin toss. If you win the coin toss, you can choose to receive or kick the ball. Whatever you choose, however, the opposite will happen at the beginning of the second half, much like football. Once the coin toss has been decided, then you can now set up your team. You simply have to choose where each of your players will begin the game. This setup will decide how the rest of the game will play out, so be very careful when choosing your starting positions. Now I feel like I have to explain a couple of basic concepts for the rest of the setup to make sense. On each of your turns, each of your players can only attack an enemy that's standing next to them. Both moving one of your players and having the same player attack an enemy will use a blitz play, and you only have one blitz play per turn. For this reason, player setup is infinitely important. Keeping your players behind the line of scrimmage, whatever it's called, will also cause your enemy to use up one of their blitz plays in order to attack one of your players. And also, if they use up one of their moves to come towards you, you can have a free attack without having to use up one of your blitzes, because the attacking player will only be one square away. That or the beginning of the game could just become one long game of chicken. However, I'm sure someone will break it up eventually. Keep in mind that your players are stronger if they have teammates next to them. Your setup has to include 3 players on the line of scrimmage, and the receiving player gets the first move after the kickoff has happened. Speaking of the kickoff, after setup is done, the defending player gets to choose where to kick the ball. Keep in mind that your player never has perfect accuracy, and an out-of-bounds kick will cause a touchback which automatically puts the ball in the receiver's hands, meaning that the receiving player won't have to spend a turn picking up the ball. Now I feel like I have to explain turnovers to you. Turnovers do not mean that the ball is now in the other player's hands. It simply means that your turn has ended prematurely and that it is now the other player's turn. Turnovers happen whenever you try and do something and screw it up. Anytime you try to pick up the ball, hit an enemy, run for extra yards, or do anything else, there is a chance that it will fail. The chance depends on a number of factors, but there is always the chance that you will fail and turn over the ball. This is all relevant to kickoff because picking up the ball usually has some chance of failing. Normally it's the first thing people go for, but keep in mind that if one of your players screws up this very simple task, your turn can end. So consider picking up the ball after you've knocked a couple of enemies over or done some other higher probability tasks. This is also important to the kicker. Try and have your kick land in bounds, because the possibility of your enemy failing to pick up the ball is a large hindrance for them. Kicking the ball out of bounds means they automatically start with the ball. This is the point at which the game actually begins. There are way too many possibilities to go over in this short beginner video, but I'll give a couple of pointers to help you out. Remember when I said that this game was more like rugby than it was like football? There are a ton of reasons for this, and I'm sure you've already noticed a couple of them, but another reason is because you can pass the ball from player to player without an actual quarterback. So if your runner is in a bit of trouble, remember that you can always pass away. However, it may be a risky move depending on the passing and catching skills of the players. Different kinds of attacks can do different things. You can knock down or push back an opposing player, and you could actually kill an opposing player. Or the attack can backfire and your player will get knocked out and cause a turnover. But remember that this game isn't completely about hitting people, unless you're playing orcs. Put some thought into your movement. Keep your opponent's weaknesses and your strengths in mind and play off that. Consider keeping your players out of fighting range so your opponent is forced to chase you. Or, alternatively, just smash them in the dick. Score more points than your opponent and win, or ignore the score entirely and just kill and injure the other team. Either gameplay style is equally respectable in my eyes. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye. Do you think that they should subscribe, Jim? I do, Bob. I really do.